Right, so this is me restarting my channel, GrooveFetish Heroes on sexuality and gender and all that stuff these days. Happen to be an anthropologist. I'm going to give you a bit of background on me and my credentials. Happen to be an anthropologist by training. Um, I don't know, does that mean much? Realistically, I don't know that I've applied it as well as I wanted to in life. But unless you get a job straight out of school that really applies your education, sometimes it's hard to keep it right at the forefront of your head. Nonetheless, I've been trained in anthropology, and I think it really does sort of mold my thoughts, if you will, because I think in cultural terms and how society and cultures sort of evolve over years and over interactions and events and stuff like that. And there's been some interesting stuff that's happened, I suppose, in the last number of years for the landscape of sexuality. And what does that mean, right? So, anyway, again, more on my credentials. I trained in Carleton for my anthropology degree. And then, after anthropology at Carleton, I found a program that was studying sexuality in Amsterdam. Inhaled a piece of pot. Yuck, that's awful. Makes you cough. Anyway, so I found this program in Amsterdam. And of course, well, as you can see, I'm smoking pot. So, yeah, it was really a great place for me to go for 2 years to study. I got to really relax and enjoy myself. You know, dope wasn't the focus of my studies. My studies were the focus of my studies. I was a very astute student. Um, and it was lovely to study in such an eclectic and culturally diverse background for or set up for sexuality. We had people from Africa and South America and Asia and just all over the place. So it was amazing. And I learned a lot about myself and my own sort of ethnocentricities and how other cultures view us and how we view other cultures and how that fashions our interactions with each other sexually and stuff, and on a gender level. So, anyway, I guess I have other credentials. Some of them aren't necessarily something I think I'll be judged that well for. And I'm going to be absolutely honest about it because 2 years ago I got divorced, and after 17 years of a relationship where I basically had no orgasms for like 10 years of the relationship. I'm not saying the relationship wasn't good in the beginning, but somewhere along the way we lost track of each other. And sexually, we just didn't do it for each other anymore, but we stayed with each other for 10 years trying to make it work. And I think, unfortunately, that sexual energy that was lacking really impacted the relationship. Um, and it was hard for him to address it. So after I divorced, I went kind of wild and I started seeing a lot of different guys and started having sex with a lot of younger guys. And that sort of led to a lot of sort of conclusions about what younger kids were doing these days sexually, and alarming sort of statistics based on anecdotal evidence of condom use in youth, or the desire for condom use in youth, and the desire for risky sex, right? So, and then while I was sort of being so promiscuous after my divorce, I sort of also hit rock bottom because I'm mentally ill. or I deal with a mental illness, and I'm not right now, but I deal with a mental illness, and it's managed right now by my medication and probably my pot smoking to a lesser degree, but to some degree. And but 2 years ago, I wasn't really on my meds, and I hit rock bottom on my bipolar manic sort of swings. And on one of them, I was very poor and wasn't going to make my rent, and I was afraid of losing my house. And I turned to selling my ass on the streets for a few months. It wasn't a long time, but I did do it for a few months, and let's just say it's an easy path to fall into for a young lady. And I want to say that what it does give me is insight into what that world is like. And I think certainly you can't forget the prostitution industry when it impacts uh, sort of sexuality these days. And you can't forget things like the porn industry either, which is another thing I got into to a certain degree, not to a lesser degree. Again, never really did hardcore porn, but I'm a nude model, and I do spreads for people. So I've got an interaction with photographers on that sort of level. And I know the world to a certain degree, and I know what to expect from it. And I know there's a seedy underbelly to it all, which can't be denied. But that doesn't mean that you can't necessarily make it better in some regards when you interact with it, um, or try to, right? I had a friend the other night. She forwarded me a thing about Pornhub, actually, that was really interesting. So, Pornhub has started a sex education portal on their website, all staffed with medical experts that give opinions on sexuality and write articles on sexuality. Sounds like a wonderful idea. And to be honest, I'd love to get involved somehow. I'm not exactly sure how to get involved, but at this point, I'm going to start doing this, and we'll see what sort of attention I can garner by just sort of putting this out there and saying, um, we're going to talk about sex on this channel. We're going to try to be non judgmental. I'm maybe going to have guests. Maybe going to play some music. Maybe going to show some media. Um, anyway, it's going to be a varied sort of 15 or 20 minutes of talk. And we'll see how it goes. Anyway, this is me signing off for today. This is my inaugural broadcast. Like I said, just an introduction to my credentials, and something to let you know that when we do talk sex, I've got the background in it to really give you an open discussion, an open and honest discussion. So I hope that's what we're here to do. I'm willing to take questions. Anybody that has any questions, post the questions, and we'll talk about your questions. I'm very interested to hear what people might have any questions on. I've got some great books. Um, Unusual Sex Practices, Dictionary of Unusual Sex Practices, and things like that. The Encyclopedia of Sexuality, and some great reference materials. So anyway, let's keep this up, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.